I have recently discovered a brand new scouting method which is going to completely change the way I play Football Manager going forward, and it will do the same for you too. Finding hidden regens has never been easier, and today I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. This method has quite literally helped me along the way of making Ultringham Premier League and Champions League winners. If you haven't seen this rebuild, I signed so many players using this method and it completely changed the way the rebuild took shape. The link to the first episode is going to be up there. There is a two-parter. It's about an hour and 50 minutes long, but it is a fantastic journey. And for the one we got to the Premier League, this is the exact method I used. Now I'm going to take us back to the midpoint in this rebuild in season number 11, when we have just got back promoted to the Premier League after getting relegated last season. And this is the first season where I started to bring in some players using this method. Number one was Roger Duarte, who is a Costa Rican centre-back who we signed for £850,000, who is absolutely fantastic with a value worth over 25 million already. I'm going to show you a few players in this team to start off with. I'm then going to show you the scouting method, and at the end of the video I'm going to show you in this rebuild a bunch of the players we signed and then went on to sell, how we made loads of money and how we eventually built a Premier League dominant club. One of my other favourite signings is Yanis Ziane, another centre-back, this time from Algeria. We signed him for £350,000. He is now Premier League quality and worth 26 million after just one season. We had the free agent signing of Kenjiro Sonoda, released from Ipswich after going on loan to Kawasaki, now worth 14 million and a really good player. The Australian central midfielder Sebastian Hall, who was signed from Melbourne City for 1.4 million and is already worth 33 million pounds as a very decent central midfielder. And you're probably wondering, how are we finding players for so cheap? How are we finding these players in the first place? And we're going to take you straight away to the scouting picture. Now, to kick things off, you need a few things set up. So I've got age between 15 and 21, and then 3 additional conditions that we are going to put on in the meantime through different ways of finding players. So we have the international youth appearances of at least 5. We have work permit likely. We're going to get into that in just a little bit, and international actual appearances as a minimum of 1. And that is the one that we are going to start off with, and that is the one I've had the best results with. Now, this scouting method does take some time and is a little bit tedious, but as you can see, the results are absolutely fantastic. Now, first off, it's about identifying a position in your team that needs improving. And for this method, I'm simply going to use a striker. I'm looking for a brand new striker to come into my team, and we're going to look for some absolute bargains. Now, the easiest way I can describe this method is by simply looking through different nations and cherry picking wonder kids from nations which have a less reputation but are absolutely fantastic at producing talent. Now, I'm going to share with you some of the star nations that I have found throughout this rebuild, and we're going to simply scroll down this list and we'll get to each and every one. Now, number 1 is going to be Algeria. Here we have Yusuf Kara and Latifi Masoudi. I will always just come to this information icon, have a little look at the stats we know so far. It looks like he's not going to be the greatest finisher. He does look quick and has good technique. He's someone that probably at this time I wouldn't look to scout. He is already wanted by clubs. He is wanted by Al Batteh in Saudi, so it probably has a little bit of value to him. He's someone that you could pick up to sell on in a year or two's time, and I'll show you again throughout this video a few of them that I've done that with, effectively making the Chelsea method that they do in real life, signing loads of wonder kids for like 500k and selling them for 5 million. Really helps with PSR rules and in FM just to raise some funds. The next one is Latifi Masoudi. This guy is 20 years of age, and we can actually see his stats a little bit more. Decent pace, great determination, great flair, great off the ball, great vision. Finishing is poor, but as a right winger could be really good with that sort of dribbling, good first touch, good heading, long shots, passing, etc. He is someone that I would look to find out more information for, especially due to his value. Now, obviously, we want to find out exactly what this guy's about. He has 29 caps for Algeria at 20 years of age. I will scout player to full knowledge, and I'll add him to a shortlist for 3 months. And by the end of this little bit here, we're going to have a whole bunch of players on this shortlist. In fact, I've already got someone here which I will remove because there's no doubt we're going to find them in just a little bit. So we remove them ones. We've now got Lotfi on that list for us. Scrolling down, there isn't any nations that poke my eye out instantly. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a pretty good place to have a look. We've got Marko Haksabanovic here for Feyenoord. Again, someone that I'm not particularly interested in. Hasn't got great finishing. Passing's good, pace is good, but not really jumping out to me off the bat. It'll be quite clear when players do stand out to you. I mean, if players have got decent stats all across the board, it's worth picking them up. If they've got good finishing, good pace as a striker, you want to pick them up instantly. Good composure is another thing to look at. I'm not saying you will never find a good wonder kid from Azerbaijan, for example, with Akil Ashkarov here at Sumyakit, who's obviously worth about 500k. And he could be decent. He does actually look okay. I wouldn't sign him going into the Premier League. But to save time, I don't personally look for every single nation. You can if you want to. You might find even more hidden gems that I have got. David Hakabayan here looks fairly decent as a striker from Armenia. Just from experience and about 20-25 seasons of using this scouting method now, I have had absolute wonders of using the nations that I will show you in this video. Bulgaria is next up, Gabriela Dayanov. Now, if you don't know, I actually ended up signing this guy in the save itself. You can see a very good pace, decent finishing off the bat, and great technique. So I'm going to get a full scout report on him and add him to the shortlist. Next up, we move on to China. Can be an okay place to look, but definitely Ivory Coast and Cameroon. Adama Kanate. He looks pretty good, good finishing, decent enough pace. That worries me a little bit. 6 foot tall, good technique, certainly worth scouting. And Gabriel Noah is also someone that I signed on this rebuild. Now, someone like Gabriel Noah, currently we have no idea of his value. I know this guy we can pick up on a free contract because I've done it in the video itself. He's going to come in as a squad player on £7,000 a week. Now, in terms of the ESC slots, because we are imagining in England, you have to be very careful of how many of these you use. Now, the good thing is we are signing players that have international appearances, and that is the main thing that gets a player a work permit on Football Manager. So a lot of players that you might be surprised that they would get a work permit actually will, because they'd have played 20 games for a fairly decent nation already. So someone like Gabriel Noah, I went ahead and signed on a free contract straight away, had a value of around £20 million. He didn't grant a work permit. I didn't give him an ESC slot. I loaned him out to Young Boys in Switzerland, where he grabbed 10 goals in 15 games, and I sold him for like £10 million. And that was a free signing and just a really good way of making money. Adama Konate, again, is someone that I am going to scout and add to the shortlist. Don't worry, I'm going to simulate a month ahead, so we have got all the scouting bits on these guys as well, so you can find them yourself. Croatia, Gabriel Sertic, a very good nation to go to. Dynamo Zagreb, you'll learn some clubs which are very good, are always very, very good. So certainly someone to keep an eye on. We'll get him scouted and add him to the shortlist. The Czech leagues, Petr Melek and Michael Holinak, both strikers that look decent. Michael Holinak, again, I signed in this exact rebuild for 58,000, I believe. He was wanted by Inter Milan, so instantly that, to me, said he's going to be a decent player. I think I brought him in for 58k. I can't remember how. Again, on the video, if you want to go back and watch that, you can see exactly how we done that. But again, another very, very good striker, very, very cheap. So the Czech nation, another very good one to keep an eye on and to add to the shortlist. Moving down, Egypt is very, very good. You can see here already semi-scouted Hazim Gad. He's a 3.5-star player from Zamalek. And now, to me, I wouldn't say he's a striker. This guy looks someone really good to retrain either as a central-back midfielder, we don't need them to finish, or as a right winger because he has got some decent speed. I would probably most often say central-back midfielder as an attacking midfielder on support. He would actually be very good. Great teamwork, great first touch, decent enough pace, good determination, 19 years of age. He's consistent as well. And with that sort of value, you can't really go wrong. So again, Egypt, another very good nation to go and scout in. After Egypt, if we scroll down a little bit more, Germany is always a bit of a difficult one because the German league or the German nation, I haven't actually got it on this save so that it's like playable properly. If you have, it's going to be a really good one to look at. But for me on this save, it wasn't because everyone gets capped because it's a bit broken, to be honest, on FM. Hungary is a good one to look at. Donye Sabo looks decent, good first touch, great pace, good passing, decent enough finishing for me. I'd certainly end up scouting him. Again, every nation that I'm saying I am looking through and scanning each nation that I'm going through, and if they are of interest to me, I will mention them. Iceland can be decent. Korea can have some decent strikers. Sun Ki-hyun, I mean, looks absolutely fantastic. And again, I never would have found this guy without this scouting method. So it is really different. Saudi Arabia, if they're still in the Saudi leagues, I would certainly have a look. This guy's out West Brom already quite inflated in price at £8.6 million. You can find some stupid bargains from signing players from their home nation. We're going to get in a minute to my favourite nation in this whole thing. In fact, I think we're going to get there right now because there is nothing that is really tickling my fancy. Senegal was really good. Liam and Dies are really AFC Mets, so someone we're not going to sign, but great finishing, great composure, great speed. I mean, just for identifying talent, you could certainly use this and sign some players that are more expensive as well. Now, the nation I actually want to show you isn't actually on here, which is frustrating. No strikers currently coming through. Ukraine, very good. Alexandra Pankiv, Shakhtar, great striker, great pace. Pinchuk, decent striker. Again, probably moving more into an advanced playmaker role or an attacking midfield role. Very aggressive, 5'11". Lacks consistency, but again, very cheap. You can't really complain too much. And Vishliv Pinchuk, oh, that's the guy we just looked at, isn't it? Tunisia is a very decent one. This guy is still in the Tunisian leagues. Kimis Kadira, sort of exactly what I'm talking about. Still being in their home nation. They're so cheap to go and pick up. This guy doesn't actually look that good. His star rating is very good, which surprises me because he looks pretty naff, to be honest. I would never really sign this player. But given that he is so cheap and here, you could easily pick this guy up, loan him out and sell him for like £5-10 million. Hamdi Bentabet, very similar. Doesn't look great, but still in the home nation of Tunisia. And that is it in terms of strikers. Now, I want to specifically show you one nation because the amount of joy I've had from this nation has been ridiculous. And to find that, we're going to go to 5 international caps. And I'm going to scroll down until we get there. And now I've opened this up to every single position just because it should show us a player from this nation, and it hasn't. For some reason, in this season that I have picked out, there is only one South African player who has got an international appearance underneath the age of 21, and that is Kamagoli Mololi. Now, this is really annoying because I can't show you a bunch of really, really good South African players, which is frustrating. I mean, this guy is fairly decent. He just grabbed a 7.21 and a 7.66 in his home nation, so certainly someone worth scouting and finding out about. I have had so much joy scouting in South Africa, and I'm going to show you the end of this rebuild specifically as well once we've gone through about a month's time in scouting, so everyone is scouted. The amount of joy I've had in South Africa is an absolute joke. The amount of players that get produced there that are of incredible quality and cost next to nothing is an absolute joke. And as mentioned, I'm going to have to show you that at the end of this video. But that is the #1 nation that I would tell you guys to go and look at their young players. If they're still playing for someone like Orlando Pirates, Supersport, Kaiser Chiefs, anyone in the South African Premier League, to be honest, if they're playing for them teams that are in the South African national team, scout them, because I almost guarantee they'll be absolute superstars. I mean, just very, very quickly, before I show you all the players that we have gone and scouted, this is what I mean by a South African player. Now, I have just transferred this picture from my Steam Deck. I am doing a rebuild of Como, and I found Joshua Jonas playing in South Africa. Now, these are his stats. I have just sold him to Aston Villa for £61 million. His stats are an absolute joke, as you can see. And for us here at Como, I sold him for £450,000 from Sundowns, where he was having a very good season. He scored 15 goals, 13 goals, then 23 goals in a season after signing for just 450k, signing for 53 million, raising up to 61 million pounds. And it's one of my best signings ever. Joshua Jonas is going to go down as an absolute legend. Now, I believe all the scouting is done here in the save, so we'll have a look at the players that we got. Hazem Gad, of course, we know a lot about already. He looked like a very good striker, a very good cam. Looking to move his position, but would be a decent signing for that fee. Michael Holonak, as mentioned, I did actually end up signing in this rebuild. This is his stats: a value of 140k to 1.4 million pounds, wanted by Inter Milan, 16 finishing, 19 determination, 15 composure, decent speed. You can see here as well, he is great, consistent, and is a very good player for that sort of price. I'd never have found him if it weren't for that. Adama Konate was a Ivory Coast international striker. 20 determination, 16 technique, 16 first touch, decent speed, good finishing and composure. Probably more off to be a winger or again training to be a central attack midfielder because he's not an amazing finisher but technically a superstar. As 6 foot tall, looks fantastic. Peter Malek is someone who is worth between 50k and 4.3 million pounds. Another one of them players that I would potentially say as a winger, but he is 6'3", so could also be a fantastic striker for us as well. Stupidly cheap value and very, very good. Lotfi Masoudi is the Algerian player we found. We scouted him. Absolutely fantastic. We can really pick him up for £500,000. Algeria is probably second on my list. In fact, the whole of Africa is probably second on my list. Algeria, South Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, some of the best nations you can find these players from. I would also recommend the whole of South America is absolutely brilliant, and Australia and New Zealand are quite good to look at. Japan's very good to look at. USA players are quite inflated in price, and then Croatia, Czech, Denmark, Slovakia, Slovenia, a lot of the smaller European nations as well. Gabriel Dayanova, again, I've said is someone that we did sign in this rebuild. 16 finishing, 17 composure, ridiculous speed, and that value. Honestly, we are just looking at strikers today. You can do this with every single position. There's been a Zealand video recently where he tells you the best attributes in every single position. For defenders, heading, marking, tackling. For playmakers, passing, technique. Most players, you're looking at determination. For wingers, you're looking at speed. I mean, speed everywhere is everything. And this guy is brilliant. Again, we signed him. I don't think he actually broke into our team, even though these stats are brilliant. If I was playing the save like a normal save, he certainly would have, because he's absolutely a joke at 5'7". Gabriel Sertic, decent striker. We've not missed yet, and I've showed you 8 players and picked them out with you guys. We have not missed on a Premier League, Champions League level striker, and they're all worth absolute pennies compared to what you would be spending. Donjat Sabo is a decent striker. 20 determination is always great to see. Hungarian, good finishing composure, decent speed in him as well, extremely consistent. Sung Ki-hin is from South Korea. Good finishing, good composure, decent speed, less determined. Probably the first player on this list that I wouldn't sell unless I was to buy him to make a profit off of him. Kamagolo Molloy is the South African we found. Even this guy, right, who is listed as a C grade by my scouts, is really, really good. He's not fully scouted just yet. 17 off the ball, 16 work rate, a fantastic box-to-box midfielder. Good speed, good finishing, dribbling, composure, first touch, determination's really good. He's going to cost you absolutely nothing. That was me finding a cam. That was me just showing you one South African under 21 and how good he could have been. And Gabriel Noah as well mentioned. I didn't actually scout him because we signed him on a free contract. This guy was very, very good for us and an absolute talent. Now let me go to the end of this rebuild and I'll show you the team we built, and I'll go through most of the signings as well. So by the end of the rebuild, we were in season number 19 and we had made some ridiculous transfers and spent a lot of money. But this is the team that we ended up with. Now I'm going to go through each and every player in this team because they are pretty much all used scouting this method, other than 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 due to homegrown status needs to be signed. Now, number 1, we're going to go with Tokani Tishvale, who is a South African. Hint, South African players are very good. Tishvale, 72 caps for them. We signed him for £500,000 from the South African Premiership. Now, he does concede a lot of goals. That is because, if you didn't notice, we are playing basically a 2-back. It was a tactic made by my girlfriend. As mentioned, the tactic is absolutely mental. But he was fantastic. I mean, 7.101, 7.08, 7.23, 7.04, £500,000 from the Sundowns in South Africa. What a signing he was. Hassan Bakir was an Algerian sign from Toulouse. Now, we signed him after he had already come to Europe and started playing really good football. He actually never really started in the Algerian leagues. He was straight away at Toulouse, but a very good international for us, played loads of games for us and was a solid centre-back. George Mofokeng is a South African worth £103 million, a centre-back who is extreme consistency, signed from the Kaiser Chiefs for £675,000. It's an absolute joke. As mentioned again, looking at centre-backs, this guy is our libero, so we're looking at passing, tackling, marking and recovery speed, and he absolutely nailed it in every single one of them stats. We took the risk, 600k. He's an absolute baller, now worth £100 million. At 21 years of age, it's an absolute joke. Eugene Savin is a Ukrainian, actually signed from Celta Vigo for £13 million. Again, not quite using the scouting method, but he did have caps for Ukraine. He's less of a hidden one, but just finding a very decent defender. My midfield was entirely built from this method. Number 1 is Romanian Adrian Mihalescu, signed from University Cracovia. He cost us £4 million, and he's an absolute joke. A 7.03 in the season just gone, a 6'4", extreme consistent, dominating midfielder with 20 determination, now worth £81 million at 27 years of age. We've got Jason Guane, a Chilean midfielder. The season, as we go into season number 19, my Uruguay midfielder Fernandez sold for about 70 to £80 million. I signed this guy for £5 million and he replaced him instantly, and he made us Champions League winners. A fantastic ball-winning midfielder, ticked every single box, and extreme consistency as well. A little bit on the older side, but still found using the same method. Now, Akpan and Giles are both homegrown players, so we'll ignore them because they don't quite fit the build that we're looking at here. This guy was a joke for signing. Mohamed Abaru Mariko, an elite winger at 21 years of age with fantastic pace, great dribbling, great crossing, great first touch, great technique, consistent, £3.6 million. Now, he's already picked up in China by Guangzhou, but had a release clause. We united that up instantly. 22 assists in 2 seasons with 6 goals and a 7.18 average rating. What a signing he was, and he's an absolute wonder kid. We have got Valentin Torres up front. I also had a signing in this save called Rodrigo Braz, who we sold for £81 million. I need the striker to come in and replace him. £6 million, and look at the amount of goals this guy scored, and a 7.48, 04, and 3 back-to-back 7.10 average ratings. This guy is absolutely fantastic. I found him because he was capped at the under 23 levels with stronger nations like Argentina, Belgium, England, etc. They are more expensive and they are less likely to break into actually getting that international cap, but you can find some stars, and Valentin Torres is one of them. This guy, I'm going to show him off because he's an absolute joke. It's Jonas Falk. Now, I found this guy from the same method, but he was more expensive. He just grabbed 25 goals, 11 assists. Less of a hidden gem find, this one, more just a gem, and he was absolutely fantastic. My whole bench is made up of them as well. Aldin Sabanovic is a Bosnia-Herzegovina centre-back goalkeeper, signed for £1 million, now worth £20 million. He is their starting goalkeeper. Gary Newell is a Canadian centre-back, signed from Montreal for £8 million. He is now worth 17 in just 1 season, which is decent at 19 years of age. Stipo Karol is a Croatian, signed from Dynamo, worth £40 million, signed for 10. We've got Kovacevic is a German centre-back, signed from Augsburg for £10 million, already worth 25. Some of the better players in this list: Higueras is a Chilean central midfielder, signed from Colo Colo for £4.6 million. Jacob Medel is a Norwegian right winger who we signed for £2.8 million. Grabbed 13 goals in our Champions League winning season. Absolute joke. Another player which was found from the youth appearances is Yannick Gross, looking at a stronger nation like Belgium, spending a bit more money, but what a player he is. Still at 21 is a wonder kid, absolute baller in Yannick Gross. Koji Sageki is one of my favourite later signings in this rebuild, a Japanese left winger from Yokohama, signed for £6 million. A very, very superstar player, absolutely brilliant to get him in. And finally, we're going to go with Mario Stroikin, a Bulgarian striker from Rosenborg, cost us £2.8 million. And look at the growth we're having on this man, already worth £42 million. Now, this has helped our finances as a whole throughout the last 5 to 10 years. We've done this stay ridiculously high, £189 million in the bank and 0 debt. In terms of our overall transfers, we raised £123 million in the season just gone. We spent 36, raised 100, so that's 220, spent 30, raised 300 million, spent 90, spent 210, raised 450 million. I mean, Yao Sibo was one of the absolute stars of this rebuild, signed for 750k. Release clause went to Al Ittihad, but was an absolute baller. Looking through this list, there's going to be some superstars in here that I like. Brahima Diallo sold to Bayern Munich for 38 million. He did cost us 58 when we signed him. From the same method, we needed a superstar, but still made £30 million on him. And was a great player for us. Some more players on this list: Kendry Sonoda, we showed you earlier. Mustafa Kamel was a goalkeeper. Roger Duarte eventually sold for pretty cheap. We've got their Gabriel Noah, as mentioned. We actually only sold him for £1.5 million, but as a striker, brought in on free, loaned out to young boys, grabbed them 11 goals, then didn't play for us for a whole season, which is pretty poor from me. But a very, very good player, signed a free contract, made 1.4 million. Obviously sold Rodrigo Braz in this season as well for 81. I mean, you can see throughout the whole thing, really, we're just making so much money selling off these players and not really spending too much. We had one season, we spent 120, bringing in a superstar striker, and eventually built the best team in the world. I mean, Altrincham are now a 5-star reputation club, and we are just full of wonder kids with ridiculous value. I mean, the average age in the squad is about 23, 24. We've got the retiring Kobe Mainu, who won his first Premier League and Champions League in this. We've got two 30-year-olds in the back here. Other than that, it is Wonder Kid Central, and I cannot recommend this method more enough to anyone. If you're doing a save, it is going to completely change the way you play FM, and it's absolutely fantastic. It does take some time, it's a little bit tedious, but my God, is it rewarding, and you can find some absolute stars. Let me know down in the comments down below if this does work for you and some of the players you found. Feel free to join the Patreon, even as a member, as a free member. Send me the link over there. If you want to say thank you over there, it's £2. Or if you want to sign up to the rebuild tier, it is £5. But most of all, make sure you're subscribing, liking the video, and I'll speak to you next time.